What's up, AP World History students? This is Amanda with Fiveable, and today I'm going to show you exactly what you need to know for time period 2. That's 600 BC to 600 CE. And so in this video in particular, I'm going to focus just on key concept 2.1. So there are 3 key concepts for period 2, and I'm going to hit all of them in different videos that are linked below. But in this one, I'm just going to start just with religion and culture. So a lot of the major world religions that exist happened and started in time period 2. These are classical world religions. There's a few exceptions here, but these religions are such an important part of the development of the rest of history, right? They have such an important impact on society and culture and gender and social hierarchies and everything and conflict. So let's go into this and learn a little bit about those religions and what you need to know about them. So in the first time period, Judaism and Hinduism originate then. But in this time period, they're also going to develop further. And so it's important to just know that Judaism is monotheistic. It's coming out of like the Middle East. Hinduism is connected with India. It's the Vedic system. It's caste. That's one of the most important terms. And so while those two start in time period 1, they're important to mention here because they are major world religions that have an incredible impact on societies throughout history. And so just to show you here, the Jewish diaspora. Diaspora is a word that will come up a lot of times. It means a movement of people, oftentimes sort of forced movement, but now instead of, everyone in that culture living in one place, they're sort of spread out in the world. So there's a Jewish diaspora, there's a Muslim diaspora, there's an African diaspora. And here you can see that, the Jewish culture originates in the Middle East and then spreads outward from there. Okay, so a few of the new religions that come about in this time period. First would be Buddhism. Buddhism originates in India and is similar to Hinduism in a lot of ways, with the exception of social mobility. The idea that you can, break the cycle and not have a caste system that will hold you into that. Ashoka is one of the most important people to associate with Buddhism because as a ruler in India, he is the one that will really spread Buddhism around the continent. And so one of the ways he did this is through these edicts. He would kind of post these different rocks and pillars that would explain some of the Buddhist laws and traditions to follow. You can kind of think of this as, at your school, there are laws that come from, or rules that come from your administration, and there's a main building that kind of has that. But then oftentimes you see like posters around the school reminding you how to act, how to be. This is very similar. India is a much bigger place than your school is, but this has a similar sense of, how do I tell people far away how to act if I'm not there in person? This is how Ashoka did it. Taoism would be another major world religion, or in this case, more of a philosophy. This is one of the Chinese philosophies that comes about. What you should associate Taoism with is harmony with nature. It's sort of a balance. This is kind of represented in the yin-yang, right? You're balanced with nature. There's a harmony there. So anytime you see anything written that you have to identify as Taoism, look for words that have something to do with nature or balance. That's going to identify Taoism for you. Another major Chinese philosophy would be Confucianism. Confucianism is really, really influential in China in particular. And it really helps the society in terms of family structure, relationships, education. And so these are kind of the main points of it. You have, 5 relationships, which would show you, ruler to subject and father to son. And there's several different ones. And they kind of outline how to act to that person. Filial piety is another important piece. Education is like one of the biggest things. It's an important tenet in Confucianism, and it helps show why education is so important in China throughout history, especially as it's connected to government roles. So here's a nice picture of Confucius himself. Okay, so another major world religion in this time period would be Christianity. Christianity starts in the Middle East around 30 CE. It's kind of like Judaism 2.0 in a sense, just in that they're the same book, right? They're coming at it from the same, general, here's what happened and here's why. But the biggest exception is Jesus. And so Jesus as like the Son of God would be a big difference. And so Christianity is going to spread from the Middle East outward into Rome, and is actually one of the reasons why Rome falls. But we'll get to that in another key concept. And so here you can see the spread, especially in this time period. At first, Christians were persecuted for being Christian, and then Christianity becomes the central religion of Europe, and that will, catapult it into being one of the most popular religions in the world. Another major philosophy that's important in this time period is what's coming out of Greece and Rome before that, but primarily Greece. And this is all about like the reason and logic that the three major philosophers outline. That's Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. And so they go in this order because they were each other's teachers. But these gentlemen really kind of outlined bigger picture ideas around government and around free will and learning. And all of these things are a really big part of education today, of how we govern, of how we rule. They're very much embedded into what we do. Even as far as like, if you ever had a Socratic method, a Socratic conversation in your class, that's coming from Socrates. It's all about asking questions rather than answering them. So if your teacher comes at you with a question in response to your question, that's what they're using, is the Socratic method. Another important philosophy that's here, it doesn't necessarily generate in this era, but this is animism. And this is important to know because any of the societies that are not like in the core civilizations, they're usually not connected to agriculture or major civilizations. These are like Native American tribes, other types of nomads across Eurasia. They tend to follow animist philosophies. And this is sort of like spirits with the natural world where everything has a spirit, essentially. And so here's an example of Native American ritual that would be like offering respect to the environment. Ancestor veneration is another term that you're going to see come up with several different societies. And this is about a worship of ancestors, that those that became before us are so important that they're worthy of worship in and of themselves. So the most important thing for any world religion that you should know for AP World is the tenets, just the major belief systems. What do people who follow this religion believe? What's the goal, right? Are you trying to get to heaven? Are you trying to break the cycle? Are you trying to, what does it look like to live a good life as a Buddhist, as a Taoist? Those would be the tenets. It's also important to know the location, right? If you know China, India, Middle East, where generally did this religion start, that's going to help you a lot. And then also the spread. From there, where does it go? That's going to be a big part of time period 3, but it starts in time period 2. And then finally, the influence. What kind of influence do these religions have in terms of government policies, social structures, gender hierarchies? There's a lot of pieces at play. And if you can kind of identify the basic, points for each of these religions, then you're going to be in a good spot for any question that you get. So stay tuned. I've got 2.2 coming up next. Thanks for watching this 5able review. Be sure to hit subscribe for more AP content and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Think 5able.